Hey everyone, today I'm going to be going over the 8.5 bonus updates, which is coming up on June 1st. I'm recording this on May 30th, so just a couple days from now is when all these changes go live. The biggest change to Joust specifically when these updates come through is actually the next update, the 8.6 update, which is June 15th, I believe, when they're reintroducing the classic Joust map. So if you really want to see like the biggest change and learn about what is actually coming in that update, I do have a separate video on that, so go back and watch that. But this specific update is on the June 1st bonus patch. So there's not that many changes coming, a few changes to physical items. So if you like hunters, if you like warriors, this is definitely more of something for you to watch. But there are also some changes to mages and guardians as well. So either way, I'm just going to hop right into this. I'm going to skip over some of the god skins. You guys can look at those yourselves. These notes are on smitegame.com. I always encourage you to watch and read through these yourself, just because you may come up with different conclusions than I do. I'm not always right. That's pretty obvious. But the more opinions you get, the more you can kind of formulate your own opinion and then just decide what fits your playstyle, which items are really going to impact you the most or impact who you're playing more than anything else. I'm going to skip over the purple buff enhancement just because it doesn't really matter. There is no purple buff in Joust, and this video is really centered around the impacts that these item changes are going to have on Joust. First things first, Gilded Arrow, the starter item, is getting a nerf. So if you watch any of the actual SPL games, you know that there is kind of one hunter build that's very popular right now. You start with Gilded Arrow, you go into Devos, you go into Speed Boots, then you go into Executioner, Wind Demon, Deathbringer. Wind Demon got a nerf last patch that came through. Now Gilded Arrow is getting a nerf, and I know that the builds don't always transfer completely from Conquest to Joust. But if you're building crit in Joust, this is the build you're most likely going as well. There's just so much pen built in, so much speed built in, and then the crit on top of it just really makes it a very effective build overall. But now with this decreased gold gain per successful marked target, it makes it a longer process for you to go ahead. The reason that you would go this item in Joust is because a lot of times the hunter has a hard time kind of being relevant early on. And this item helped you build your items faster because you're gaining more gold early. With this nerf, I think it's going to be a little bit tougher for hunters to kind of keep up in that early game. The late game is still going to be there, but really most Joust games don't go super late. So with this item being nerfed, with a death's toll still being banned in Joust, I think you might see more Cowl with hunter builds or even warrior builds. Bluestone might be a thing as well on hunters, but there are also some changes to that item, which we'll go over later in this little update too. So starter item, Gilded Arrow getting a nerf. On top of that, the upgrade to Gilded Arrow Ornate Arrow is also getting a nerf. Decreased gold percentage gain from 20 to 5%. That's pretty significant. Again, it's mostly going to impact just how quickly you can use the item. And in Joust, you want to get that online quicker rather than later. So significant nerf here. And then also the other upgrade to Gilded Arrow, Diamond Arrow, is also decreasing that bonus gold on minion kills and god kills. So I'm not sure if this item is going to still be the go-to for hunters. You might see more of the ability-based hunters kind of being picked up instead of the auto-attack hunters. But we'll see. Just pretty big changes to this whole entire arrow tree, basically. So bringing the other items kind of up to speed just because this was the one that was picked so often. Executioner, again, part of that crit build that's very popular among hunters, especially in Conquest. Decreasing the attack speed from 25 to 20%. So the reason that you built this before, again, was it was a very well-rounded item that you could just kind of plug into really any build that you wanted. With this attack speed going down a little bit, you might not see it as often. I still think it's going to be pretty good. It's not a huge change, but in combination with some of the other changes that are happening, you might want to swap this item out. And kind of just going right into that, Atalanta's bow is getting increased physical power from 25 to 35. So I do have kind of these open, which in a different tab here, which let's just look at these. So right now, decreasing attack speed from 25 to 20%. If you look at Executioner, 35 physical power, 25 attack speed, that's going down to 20%, right? So cost of 2200, 35 power, 20% attack speed. Your basic attacks do reduce your target physical protections by that percentage amount, but that does depend on you hitting them. Now that they're changing this Atalanta's bow, increasing that from 25 to 35, you see for 2200, you get 35. This is going to change to 35 in this next patch. You get 25% attack speed built in, plus you get 10% physical pen just with the item. And then getting a killer assist, you gain Atalanta's agility, which is that kind of haste and fatalis effect where you can run around a lot quicker. So realistically, if you look at these two changes with these two items, if you're building this, you might want to swap for this. It can be the same cost. You're going to have the same power once this update goes through. And then you're going to have some of those extra bonuses from Atalanta's bow, especially getting a killer assist in Joust. You should be involved on almost every kill or assist. So you're going to get this little passive effect a lot more often than if you're in Conquest or something. So check those two changes out. Might want to just swap those if you're building Executioner before. Still think it's a pretty good item, but this is going to be a lot more in line with the value that this one brought before. Next change is going to be Aussie. So Aussie, a pretty good item, especially in Joust, because it's harder to go lifesteal for hunters or auto attack based warriors. With like Devos, it's harder to stack it. It takes longer, and then by the time it's stacked, sometimes the game is honestly over. So with Aussie getting increased physical power from 20 to 25, I think this is going to be an item that's rushed a lot more often. If you build this item in Joust, you can, if you're the hunter, you can go in solo Bull Demon King at certain points in the game while your team is pushing up lane. So I think this is just a very useful item in general in Joust, and with the physical power getting increased, I think you're going to see this definitely a lot. It also just lets you sustain up, right? If you get into a fight and then you can go and sustain from a camp or something, then you're right back in the fight. So nice little buff for this item. I think you're going to see it quite a bit. Bluestone, along with the hunter build that has the Gilded Arrow start, almost all warriors are building this Bluestone, and that's because it has really good poke right away, where it has the extra damage on top of the abilities that you're hitting. So people like Arthur can really abuse it, where they have 6 abilities that they can just shuffle through, and you're getting extra damage on top of each ability that you hit. But really, the Bluestone pendant should be used for that damage and not necessarily for like sustain. So that's why they're decreasing its HP 5 from 20 to 10. They're taking it and you're still getting that reward of the damage, right? Which is why you're going Bluestone in the first place. But you don't have that extra sustain on top of it. So I think the other Warrior's Axe and Sigil are going to be, they just have more of an identity now. Where Bluestone, if you're still wanting to go aggressive, still wanting to attack early, Bluestone is still going to be your starter. It's just not going to be as forgiving compared to what it was before, which is good because then you're going to see more of the axe, more of the sigil in certain situations. But if you're going a really offensive warrior, this is still your item. Again, if you're a hunter, you can still build this if you're ability based. Chiron, this item still works really well on. Medusa, this item still works really well on. So I don't think you're going to see it go away. It's just not going to be your kind of go-to for that hybrid build that you're seeing almost every game for warriors specifically. They are also nerfing the Bluestone Brooch. So instead of 75 bonus damage, it's getting 50, which this is a little bit strange to me because you're buying this because you want that extra damage. So I don't know. This is going to be tough. I think you're going to see Bluestone less often, and you might see Warrior's Axe more just because you have the life steal with that. You're taking 25 of their life every time you hit them. So the sustain is nice, especially in Joust, just being able to out-sustain your enemies early on and then be ahead of them when it comes to like the red fight and things like that. I just think Warriors might pop back in a little more often compared to Bluestone with these changes. Now, moving on from all the physical items specifically, reinforced shoes decreased the crowd control reduction from 20 to 10%. As a support, I don't know if this is going to deter me from buying these shoes. The passive is just so much better. If you get these online early, you're super defensive. You can survive early. Yes, the CCR is nice, but realistically, you're still going to survive without that, and there's plenty of CCR to go around with other items. So, yes, it's a nerf. I don't see this really impacting when I'm building reinforced. I'm still going to build focus boots on like Yamoja and people who really need that mana, but I don't know. These are still just really good item, and nerfing CCR isn't going to do much, I don't think. Same thing for reinforced Greaves. You're not buying these for the CCR specifically. The CCR is nice, but that's just not the reason you buy these. It's to survive early, and that's still going to be the case. So I think these are still going to be super popular in Joust. You can build these on Assassins that are hybrid. You can build it on Bruiser Warriors. So these are going to still just be super popular, I think. Now, those are all the item changes. I know there's not that many, but some of the god changes are interesting. I don't think there's going to be huge impacts on Joust either with some of these changes, other than Persephone being, whenever she gets let into ranked, you're probably going to see her a lot. I've just seen the damage that she's able to output, and it's pretty insane. So if you haven't played her yet from the rework, make sure you're practicing her. And if you see her in your games, just know that some of the things that she can do are a little bit different. Her Harvest Flower, the decreased bite power scaling from 50 to 40%. These things still do a ton of damage. They go through walls, so your good Persephones are going to put them outside of the wall and then shoot them into your tower and kind of catch you off guard. So just be on the lookout for that. But yeah, like I said, Persephone, I think it's still going to be really, really strong in Joust. She does a ton of damage, and it's easier to hit her one, and her one does more damage, I think, compared to before. So watch out for her, or if you like her, definitely play her. She's probably going to be a ban, I think, still in Joust. Gilgamesh, Sunforged Scimitar, his slow duration decreased from 2.5 to 2, which is pretty good. I think he's fairly oppressive in Joust specifically just because it's so small that he can hit that on multiple gods, and he's just really oppressive right now. And then a drop kick, the burst damage going down from 65 to 55, and the bonus damage scaling from 25 to 20. I think if you know how to play against this god, he's not that hard to play against. He doesn't have any sort of CC immune alt or anything in his kit. So if you really just focus him, you should be able to burst him down fairly easily. But especially with these nerfs, I don't know if he's going to be that instant ban that he was, last patch or a couple patches ago when he first came through. He's not going to be as oppressive either, and he's pretty easy to lock down. So this guy might go from high tier to just mid tier kind of. He's similar to Chalk, right? Where if you know how to play against him, he's really not that hard to avoid the damage, but simple kit, and you have to know how to play against that kit specifically. King Arthur, Steadfast, decreased damage mitigation from 1.5 per stack to 1% per stack. We don't see a lot of King Arthur in Joust, the games that we play at least, and I think it's just because he relies so much on getting ahead, and it's hard for him to get ahead in Joust. He can't get early kills necessarily unless you let him, and then he can't farm up as efficiently as in like Conquest. So pretty, I don't know, pretty irrelevant changes here for King Arthur specifically, because I don't think he's that great in Joust. Sobek, Lurking in the Waters, decreased slow from 20, 25, 30, 35, and 40 to 25% at all ranks. So his ultimate a little bit less effective, and then he is a little bit more squishy in his ult, which is kind of a slow-moving ult too, so can wail on him a little bit if he's just trying to attack, and you're going to be less slow. I don't know. I still think he is still just such a good support in Joust. You can catch people off guard with the pluck and get them out of position so easily into your own team that if they're not nerfing the pluck, then there's really not... It's not going to change how much this god is played or how effective he really is. Yeah, maybe the zoning piece of his ultimate is going to be a little bit less effective, but I mean, as soon as he goes down into his ult, you're still going to have people running away from it. So I don't think this is going to change him too much. He's still a top tier Guardian, probably even bannable in Joust right now. Scylla, her crush decreased percent pen from 20% to 15%. Kind of the same thing as Sobek. Yeah, the percentage decrease on crush, it hurts a little bit less, but everything else in her kit just allows her to be such a good mage in Joust that she's still top tier. We don't necessarily ban her that often, but it's because we try to pick her up more than anything else. She has the secure on her crush. She has the secure on her ultimate for any of the objectives. She can get away with her ultimate, and it's probably going to be up before the next fight comes through. Percent pen is going to be harder for her to kill tanks, but that's really not a huge problem. She can still kill your squishies, so not a huge nerf to her at all, and she's still going to be top tier in Joust. Heimdallr, his Vigilant decreased critical strikes from 70% to 65%. Not a huge change there. And then the Bifrost increased the base cooldown from 14 to 16. I think it was pretty easy to punish in Joust already before having this Bifrost cooldown increase. And really, he's a kind of a high execution god too. So with this nerf for him, I don't think you're going to see much of him in Joust. I do think the good Heimdallr players can make a really big impact, but it's just kind of few and far between that we've seen really be effective with this god in Joust. So probably not going to see him too often. And if you are a Heimdallr main, just know that your Bifrost, which is your really your only escape outside of the ultimate, which you don't want to necessarily use all the time, is going to be 2 seconds longer, which is pretty significant. Ymir Ice Wall increased cooldown from 12, 11, 10, 9, 8 to 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. So 2 seconds longer at each level, basically. Ice Wall is probably the reason you pick Ymir. So I still think this is a pretty good ability in Joust. You just have to probably build cooldown a little bit more often or earlier than you did before. Just because you can wall people inside red buff, you can wall them out of red buff, you can wall them while they're trying to escape in the jungle. So I still think it's a really good ability. I think Ymir is going to be good in Joust. I personally am not a good Ymir player, but the ones that we have played, the wall is still really effective. On her, so I'm excited for this change. As a support player, playing against this god is just insanely frustrating because you can get away from everything. So his Desert Fury, which is his ultimate, the cooldown used to be 75. Now it's 90 seconds at all ranks. So that's 15 extra seconds that you're going to have to try to lock this guy down before, as Cerberus, as Ares, as whoever, if you're trying to actually get any sort of CC, he can just ult, do a ton of damage, maybe kill you, and then jump out. At this point, he's still a strong Joust hunter for sure, but with his ultimate being up less often, it's just going to be easier to pin him down, after he jumps. You can actually CC him instead of waiting for the jump, thinking you have him, and then him getting away with the Desert Fury. So not going to be as good, but I think with his built-in pen in his kit, still definitely going to make an impact on Joust. Just not that first pick kind of that he is in the SPL either. So Athena, this is the last change. Her reach scaling is going down from 35 to 30%, and her subsequent hit scaling is going down from 25 to 20. So this isn't a huge impact on her unless you're playing her full damage or something, which I don't recommend that in Joust. There's no jungle. There's really no way to play her that way effectively, I don't think, in Joust. She just gets locked down too easily. And then her confound is the damage on it is decreasing from 40, 70, 100, 130, 160 to 40, 65, 90, 115, 140. Yeah, this is a nerf, but if you played this game 2 or 3 months ago, this ability didn't do damage at all. So it's a nerf, but still, this is one of the single best abilities in the entire game. So you're not going to see Athena any less, especially in the support, guardian role, just because of these nerfs. She's still going to be fairly top tier and maybe even bannable, depending on what kind of comp you're trying to run. So that's all the changes. Again, these are coming in a couple days. So June 1st is when these are live. Make sure you read through them yourselves. You can go into a little more depth and do a little more research on your own. But I am giving away a couple more chests. I did give away 10 tier 2 chests. There are actually still a couple people who have yet to message me and claim those. So if you are one of my first 10 YouTube subscribers, I appreciate that. Just send me a message on YouTube and let me know what your username is, and I'll get those chests over to you. But I'm also giving away 2 chests, awesome chests, which is a little bit kind of an upgrade from the tier 2 chests. At 50 YouTube subscribers, I'll choose 2 randomly and send those your way. And then on Twitch also, once I hit 50 subs, I'm going to send 2 awesome chests to 2 random Twitch subs as well. So I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you learned a little bit, and you're going to be prepared a little bit more for the June 1st update. I'm also going to be recording an 8.6 update with all those changes that are coming up in a couple weeks. So keep your eye out for that. But if you enjoyed this, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and check out all the rest of my videos too. Hopefully they'll help you just become a little bit better of a Joust player. So thanks again. I'll talk to you guys next time.